Hello everyone, this is Oksana Rudko with you and my brand of knitted bags, La Accessory. In this video tutorial, we will be knitting this gorgeous decorative pillow together. This is an unusual format for my work, but it's been a long time dream of mine that I wanted to bring to life. And right before the new year, I started knitting it and I'm ready to film a really cool masterclass for you. Because here I'm showing a pattern that is usually knitted in the round. I've adapted it for back and forth rows, since in those it can become skewed. I'll share with you the tricks and nuances of knitting, how to prevent this so that the pattern doesn't skew and your fabric lies flat. We'll carefully look at precisely how to expertly edge your chosen fabric, and then we will meticulously examine how to skillfully knit it. Because we'll have two parts, the front and the back, and how to sew in a zipper like this. Before we start knitting the main fabric, we'll knit a sample swatch together. We'll master the pattern, get some practice as they say, so that it turns out beautifully for you. And I'll teach you how to do the calculations for the pillow size you've chosen. Because you buy a pillow insert somewhere in a store, for which you'll be knitting this kind of cover. My pillow, for example, is 40 by 40 centimeters. I'm knitting the fabric a little smaller than 40 centimeters. A bit later, I'll show you and explain why that is. So let me tell you what the trick is. I knitted this particular pillow using macaroni star. It's a cotton cord. It doesn't have a core and has a kind of flat structure. I'd call it round flat. In terms of length, it's about 105 to 110 meters here. Unfortunately, the color isn't specified here. It's this kind of beige golden shade. And it took me 3.5 skeins to knit this pillow. So you should buy 4 skeins and that should be enough for most people because there's half a skein left as a reserve, especially for those who knit more tightly. Each of us has our own unique style and we'll all use a slightly different amount of material. So I think 4 skeins will be more than enough for everyone for a pillow of this particular size. Before we actually start knitting, let's carefully go over the essential materials we'll need. Cord. 4 skeins of macaroni star. Each skein contains 105 to 110 meters. For the second pillow, I chose this milky golden shade. Next, we need a pillow insert. Basically, any pillow will do. It can look different. For example, I recently bought this particular one at Jutco, and it doesn't even have a protective cover. If you happen to have a contrasting yarn, for example, a vibrant blue, right? That would be ideal. Our pattern is quite porous, so these noticeable white gaps might be a bit visible, so please keep that in mind. And you can readily buy colored pillow inserts that more or less perfectly match your yarn, which can help to minimize the visibility of any gaps. Like this. Mine is 40 by 40. Just a reminder, we will be knitting the fabric a little smaller. More on that later. Next, you'll need a needle and thread to sew in the ends. A measuring tape to check our dimensions. Next, we need a zipper. Mine is 45 centimeters, so I took 5 centimeters extra just in case. The color isn't quite right, but it won't be visible. I'm knitting this for myself for home use, so I'll probably just keep this one. The main thing is, I prefer spiral zippers. This is what they look like. So I also recommend you use a spiral zipper. I'll show you how to sew it in. What principles do I follow to make sure it sits nicely and closes well? Regarding the crochet hooks, I use a size 5 hook. It might turn out that it's more comfortable for you to use a 4.5 or 5.5. You'll get the feel for it on a sample piece. If it's comfortable for you to crochet in general, you can try a few hooks and choose the one that suits you best. I use the 4th one to weave in the ends. It's more convenient to do it with this one. And we'll also need markers because we'll be working every 5 or 6 rows in a specific way. I'll explain all of this, and it's better to mark this exact spot with a marker. So now we'll move on to the sample. I'll explain how the pattern is crocheted. I'll show everything in detail from the very first stitch. We'll crochet about 4 rows of a small sample together. We'll take some measurements and then move on to the main fabric where I'll explain the knitting principles, how many rows we knit, and so on. Now I'd like to pause for a moment to talk about the alternatives you can use to make this pillow. So macaroni start is the cord we're using to crochet. This is the original, I'm just putting it here for comparison. And then we have 2 flat cords. They're also cotton, one without lurex and the other with lurex. Unfortunately, there's no label. I only have this little skein. This is just ribbon. Here's a flat cord like this without lurex. A soft cotton yarn, very pleasant to the touch. And the same ribbon, only with lurex. Macaroni ribbon glossy. Now I will proceed to show you precisely what the sample fragments actually look like, which have been carefully made from these particular cords. So the ribbon is quite glossy and reflective. Here I have some leftovers. This is that cord. Yes. This is how our pattern looks in terms of texture. It's denser than with macaroni star. And the appearance is also very nice. Here is macaroni ribbon with lurex. And we also have one made from just a flat cotton cord. Yes, this one here. This is another option for tying. It's actually very pleasant to knit with this one. It knits very easily. It's really ideal for working with. And this is how it looks, also great. And the pillow will turn out to be softer to the touch than with the previous 2. We start our knitting with a sample. For the sample, we'll chain 16 stitches and add 2 turning chains. I'm showing everything from the very beginning for beginners, for those who are just now picking up a crochet hook. Just a reminder, I'm using a size 5 hook. What am I doing? The short end. I lay it across the long end. And with my left hand, I grab the loop like this, as if holding it. I insert the hook from underneath. Like this, from underneath, I catch the working yarn and pull it through this loop. And then I secure it. We've made a little knot. And the loop that I consider the 0 loop, it isn't counted anywhere. We start knitting with it. We cast on 16 chain stitches and 2 turning chains, so that's 18 chain stitches. You really shouldn't make the stitches too tight. You truly need to leave some adequate space. Your stitches shouldn't be tight. They should be loose and relaxed. A little bit loose. We've made 1 stitch. We are now counting through a sequence of numbers, beginning with the number 2, followed by the number 3, then the number 4, continuing on to the number 5, subsequently the number 6, and finally concluding with the number 7. 8, 9, and 10, these are the specific numbers we are looking at. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now, I will teach you the precise method of how to accurately count your individual chains so that you can confidently check your own work and ensure its correctness. It is essential to establish a consistent starting point for counting, and for this purpose, we always begin counting from the very first chain stitch. To provide you with a clear understanding, let me show you a detailed close-up. Here's your first knot. We don't count it. Our first chain is right here. Here it is. Let's count them out. 1, 2, 3. We'll continue counting up to 18. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and finally 18. The loop on the hook is never counted. So, we've successfully finished crocheting the initial foundation chain of air loops. Now, we carefully turn our entire chain over, just like this. These are the distinct back loops that are now facing directly towards us. We will crochet the first row into these back loops. Watch carefully. We skip 2 back loops. 1, 2. Here is our working yarn, and under it are the first and second back loops. We will skip them then yarn over the hook and carefully insert the hook under the third back loop. We have now skipped 1, then 2 stitches and precisely inserted the hook under the third back loop. We then yarned over the hook once more and gently pulled the yarn through all 3 loops that are currently on the hook. This is how the beginning of each row of the pattern will be worked. Next, we will now switch to a slightly different pattern. We will be using 2 back loops at once to work on a single pattern element, which will create a unique and interesting texture. We insert the hook, this time without a yarn over, under our back loop. Yarn over with the working yarn and without pulling through, insert the hook under the second back loop. If you have trouble seeing the back loop, turn the chain towards yourself, focus on the chain, then turn it back again, and you'll see these back loops once more. Insert the hook under the second back loop, yarn over, and now we'll crochet as follows. Crochet 2 stitches. And crochet 2 more stitches. And be sure to crochet 1 stitch. So you'll have 2, 2, and 1. It's incredibly important that when your yarn twists, you gently untwist it so that your cord lies as flat and smoothly as possible while you are diligently crocheting. This careful attention to detail will directly and significantly affect the overall appearance and beautiful finish of your finished pillow. Next, we will continue the process of crocheting our intricate pattern, ensuring each stitch is perfect. We crochet the second element of the pattern in the same way. We use 2 bars. First, carefully insert the crochet hook into the designated stitch, then gently grab the working yarn with the hook. It's important not to crochet it yet, just hold it. Next, you will insert the hook under the very next bar. To clarify, this part here is the chain, and this distinct part over here is the bar. Insert, pull through, and crochet 2. See, it's quite twisted, so I carefully straighten it out right there on my finger, making sure it's perfectly aligned. Again, 2 and always 1, always. It often gets lost when you knit a lot. And then you might have problems with the number of stitches and you'll have to unravel and redo it. I'm telling you this so you can keep it under control right from the start. This happens to me too. That is, I forget, start knitting and lose this last reference point, and then I have trouble unraveling. Next, we tie it the same way. We find the next 2 bars. Let me remind you, we only knit through the bars in the first row. The initial bar carefully picked up the working yarn, ensuring a secure hold. Subsequently, the second bar also meticulously picked up the working yarn, preparing it for the next step. Then, it was essential to straighten out the yarn completely, removing any twists or kinks. Following this, the process involved pulling the yarn through 2 loops, then pulling through another 2 loops, and finally pulling through the last single loop to complete the stitch. We continue like this until the end of the row. We will have 3 bars left. I'll knit them together with you, because the last 2, well, the second to last 2 will be our pattern, and the very last one will be attached in a specific way. And then we'll move on to the intermediate row. The first row is almost finished. The last 3 bars. Here, these 2 stitches, we will knit them with our established pattern following the design on what? Yes. 2, 2, 1, and then the very last bar. You can certainly knit it. We meticulously made a yarn over, carefully inserted the knitting needle, gently pulled the yarn through, and then securely attached it just precisely like we did the very first one. However, I typically perform the final attachment without creating a yarn over. That is, I simply attach a single crochet without a yarn over. I inserted the hook without a yarn over, grabbed the working yarn and pulled it through. Usually the overall size and appearance of my very last chain in the sequence is designed to be precisely the same as the size and visual characteristics of this particular double crochet stitch. This is because, at this specific point in the crafting process, the chain inherently loses its natural and intended size due to the significant influence and presence of these 2 initial turning chains. Consequently, as a direct result of this interaction and the subsequent adjustments, they ultimately end up being more or less the exact same size, ensuring a consistent and uniform look throughout the piece. So I recommend that you also attach with a single crochet. But if you want, you can try attaching it the way we did the first one. Next, at this stage, you can assess the softness and density of your knitting. This is a pillow and the fabric shouldn't be stiff as a board. If your stitches are too tight, I recommend using a different, larger hook and crocheting a bit more loosely. Basically, this is your knitting, your taste, and you control it yourself. But right now you're making a sample, and once you finish the sample, you will do the calculations. So if you crochet your sample with one tension, do the calculations, and then start crocheting with a different tension, your calculations will no longer be accurate. That's why you should practice and perfect your technique now on the sample. You can crochet more than 4 rows. Keep going until you feel it's just right for you. Yes. So that's my introductory note. Don't neglect this. This is your work. Let your hands get used to this pattern and then you'll have a beautiful finished piece. Yes, the second row is an intermediate one. We always make a turning chain, yes. Then we turn the work like this. Next. Look closely. This particular loop where the working yarn meticulously comes out does not in any way count as a stitch. The very next loop immediately after it, this specific one, we will carefully crochet into it every 5 or 6 rows later, ensuring a consistent and beautiful pattern throughout the entire project. Right now we skip it. Then here's our next slanted loop. See, it goes like this. We don't crochet it all the way through just like this. If we did it all the way, we would insert the hook like this. But we insert the hook only through the back bar, like this. Of the second loop. We carefully yarn over the hook, and without picking up any more additional yarn from the working strand, we immediately and smoothly pull through the very first loop that was already securely positioned on the crochet hook. We continue in the same way. We find the next chain, insert the hook through the back bar, yarn over, pull it through, and immediately make the stitch. These are slip stitches. We will work this entire row using slip stitches. And these intermediate rows will be worked regularly after these lush rows. Next, we find the following one. Be careful, don't miss it. Yarn over, pull through, knit. So be attentive, don't skip any stitches. They all need to be knitted, starting from the second one. Yarn over, pull through, knit. Insert the hook behind the back loop, pull through, knit. If we look at it like this, it's hard to see. We can see these top stitches here. First, insert the hook into the stitch, then carefully pull the yarn through, and finally knit the stitch. Insert the hook, pull the yarn through, and knit. And we continue like this to the end. My cord is already starting to twist a lot. Soon I'll have to untwist it. I'll also show you how I untwist it. Alright, let's keep going to the end. It's incredibly important to carefully knit this particular part correctly and precisely. Now, allow me to gently guide you through the process. Okay, watch carefully. You have what looks like 2 braids here. You knit the very last one in the classic traditional way, completing the project beautifully. And this one, these are our 2 turning chains, we will now work into the very front loop. This is the only place where we work into the front loop. And we pull the working yarn through, make 2 turning chains, 1, 2. How do you check yourself? You should have 16 braids here, not counting these 2 turning chains. Let's count. This bar doesn't count. Here's our first braid. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And 1, 2, the turning chains. We turned our work. We are knitting the second row of puff stitches. Let me show you how we work them. We will knit them into these loops here. So we have this kind of row, yes, a bit unusual. This is the kind of weaving we get. But we will make them under the loops. We make a yarn over, insert the hook under the first chain, Watch carefully how this looks. There. Now carefully grab the working yarn, which is the strand coming directly from your ball of yarn. Carefully pull the working yarn through the stitch and then crochet all 3 loops that are currently on your hook together, completing the stitch. Like that. Remember, we only do it this way for the very first stitch. After that, we continue with our pattern. We insert the hook under the second chain. Grab the working yarn and pull up a loop. Without finishing the stitch, we insert the hook under the second chain again. First, grab the working yarn, then gently pull it through the loop. Now, carefully crochet 2 stitches, then another 2 stitches, and please do not forget the very last one. Don't forget about the final stitch. Unwind the cord. The next element of the pattern. Insert the hook under the chain again. Grab the working yarn and pull up a loop. First, insert your crochet hook under the very next chain stitch. Then, carefully grab the working yarn with your hook and gently pull it through that chain stitch. Next, yarn over and pull through 2 loops on your hook. After that, unwind a bit more of the yarn from the skein. Finally, yarn over again and pull through 2 more loops, and then yarn over one last time and pull through the final single loop. This is how your pattern turns out. We continue crocheting our pattern. Find the next chain. Grab the working yarn and then carefully pull up a loop to securely attach it. Next, insert your hook under the chain once again. Gently pull the yarn through and then meticulously make the stitches. First 2, then another 2. Finally, slowly unwind the yarn so that it is perfectly even, one single strand. This is how we move to the end of the row. We won't attach the last 3 chains. We'll crochet them together. Now continue on your own until you reach this point. Since there isn't much crocheted yet, and I want to ensure that you can clearly see the process, I'll now show you in detail how I carefully unwind my work. Without completely removing the hook from the stitches, I gently unwind it in this particular manner, or rather, to be more precise, I carefully twist it to the side, just like this, allowing the yarn to loosen gradually and smoothly. Of my knitting. So I end up with this very twisted piece and I just hang it up, and this way it unwinds itself. I can help it along to make it go faster. It's harder to show on a large piece, but I do this even with very large pieces. The main thing is not to remove the hook so your knitting doesn't unravel. And that's it, you have a nice even yarn. You can go on, continue your knitting. We've reached the second to last attachment. Yes, the second to last attachments are our pattern. One that's a pattern element more precisely 2. We've knitted 2, 2, 1. Yes. And the last chain, it's a bit slanted here, but you can see it clearly. I knitted with a single crochet. You can try both double crochet and single crochet. More precisely, the double crochet stitch here is actually a half double crochet. That is to say, when you insert the crochet hook, pull the yarn through and then crochet 3 loops together, that particular technique is a half double crochet, the one we typically use at the very beginning of the row. I do not want to use that specific one, so I will simply crochet with a single crochet stitch. Yes. So we make 1 turning chain, yes, and crochet the intermediate row. That is, our rows will be counted according to the textured pattern. This is the first, this is the second. The intermediate one is not counted. It serves as a joining row so that we can neatly crochet our main pattern. Turn the work. Now we have slip stitches ahead, which we start crocheting not from the first chain. Let me remind you, the first chain is here. This one does not count. This is our turning chain. This is the working loop. We skip the first chain and start inserting the hook behind the back loop of the second chain. But in 5 or 6 rows, we will be crocheting not into the second chain, but into the first one. We will get to that. I will explain it to you in more detail. For some, this will happen after the 5th row, for others after the 6th. It will depend on when your work starts to slant and how much. So we will carefully skip the very first stitch, then gently insert the crochet hook under the back loop of the chain, yarn over the hook, and then smoothly pull the yarn through. Insert the hook under the next stitch, then yarn over the hook and gently pull the yarn through the stitch. Continue in the same way. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Continue to the end of the row. Here I'll remind you again how we crochet. Don't skip any chains, and remember, you should have 16 of them, not counting the turning chains. So we've almost reached the end. I've worked into the second to last chain. Here is our chain, and here we already have what looks like 2 turning chains. So we crochet into the last chain and we work into this bar right here. See, it looks a bit different. Here's the bar, and here we insert the hook under it. Just like that, pull through and crochet. Let's not make 2 turning chains, but count right away. Pay attention. We don't count this bar at all. Here's our first chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. The loop on the hook is never counted, it's our working loop. We will now make 2 turning chains and then carefully turn the work. And in exactly the same precise way, we will begin crocheting the 3rd row with our established pattern. For the first stitch of the row, we yarn over, insert the hook under the first chain, yarn over again, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. This is a half double crochet. Next, we continue crocheting our pattern under the chains. Insert the hook under the chain, pull up a loop but do not crochet it yet, insert under the next chain, pull up another loop, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then 1. Straighten your yarn. We continue like this until the end of the row. Here we make a turning chain, a chain for turning, and crochet slip stitches. So let's knit 4 rows following the pattern of these first 2. Let's finish knitting and then I'll explain to you how we do the calculations. So let's get started. This is what my sample with 4 rows looks like. And now I'll explain how to do the calculations to find out how many stitches you need to cast on for your fabric. Take a sheet of paper and a pen as well as a measuring tape. Now I'll show you how to measure. So you need to lay your measuring tape across the width. For me, that's 11 centimeters. You see, my sample is 11 centimeters. Now, how do we calculate further? We cast on 16 stitches together. We don't count the 2 turning chains. They equal 11 centimeters. We don't know how many stitches we need to cast on, so we'll call that number X. But our width needs to be 40. However, I told you that I make the width a bit smaller, 37 centimeters. Plus, we'll have an edging, which will add 1.5 to 2 centimeters, and that will be enough because the pattern itself is also stretchy. A pillow cover shouldn't be too big. It's actually better if it's a little snug the other way around. So I'm using 37 centimeters, given that my pillow is 40 by 40. If yours is 50 by 50, you can use 47 by 47, yes. Next, according to the rules of proportion, how do we calculate? X equals. We will now multiply the number 16 by the number 37 and then proceed to divide the result by the number 11. We do the calculation on a calculator. I got 53.81 and then a bunch more digits. So you can round it to either 53 or 54 stitches. Yes. When I knitted my first pillow, according to my calculations, I cast on 52 stitches and 2 edge stitches. Actually, for the second pillow, I will also be casting on 52 stitches. The calculation is quite approximate. It's very important to maintain the knitting tension so that you get approximately the size you want. So if your goal is to make it smaller rather than bigger, go for the larger size. If your goal is still to make it smaller and you know you're knitting and so on, then go for the smaller size. That is, you can subtract 1 stitch, 2, and cast on a little less. This is your reference point, right? I'm casting on 50. 2 stitches plus 2 turning chains. Now we'll go through this process together once more. I'll remind you, show you, and after we knit the first 5 rows. I'll pause at one point to explain that the pattern can slant, it does slant, how to prevent this, what needs to be done. I'll tell you all about it. So let's start knitting the main fabric. We unravel our sample and start again. So, according to your calculations, you figured out how many stitches you need to cast on. For me, that's going to be 52 stitches plus 2 turning chains, so 54 in total. Again, we place the short end over the long one, grab the loop from underneath, hold it in place, and make the first stitch. Our starting loop is ready. Next, we cast on 54 chain stitches, not too tight. We don't pull them tight. We make them more or less loose. Everything is on camera, but I won't show the entire cast on, just the beginning. Then we'll count together, meaning I'll stop at every step, just like I showed before. Just like with the sample, but a bit faster. So let's get started. We will now count from 1 to 11, observing each number in sequence. First we have 1, followed by 2, then 3, next is 4, after that comes 5, then 6, subsequently 7, 8, 9, 10, and finally the 11th number in our count is 11. I've carefully made my crochet chain with exactly 54 individual chain stitches, which is the required number. They're wider than 37 centimeters. But as we work the pattern, it will tighten up. So don't worry if you see that it's not 37, but say 40 centimeters. Just count it that way. We don't count the knot. We start counting the braid from the first one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, and 54. The loop on the hook does not count. Turn your crochet chain so that the back bumps are facing directly towards you, then yarn over your hook. Carefully skip the very first 2 bumps and gently insert the hook into the third one along the chain. Yarn over, pull through and draw through all 3 loops on the hook. This is a half double crochet. Next we continue with our pattern. Each element is worked over 2 bumps using 2 bumps at a time. Insert the hook under the first bump, pull up a loop, insert the hook under the second bump, pull up another loop, then yarn over and pull through 2, 2, and 1. Don't forget. The next 2 bumps, insert the hook. Watch closely how I transfer the tension. I pull this working yarn tight towards the hook, so there isn't a gap here, right? We don't have a situation where a big loop of yarn is hanging loose here. This is especially important for beginners. So I insert the hook again, pull tight, and bring out the working yarn. Without making a stitch, I insert the hook into the next one. Pull the yarn through, and now I work off 2, 2, and 1. Reminder, it is important to consistently keep your stitch tension exactly the same as when you originally made your gauge swatch. This is important. But in any case, if your work ends up much wider or narrower, you can always unravel it and redo it. Don't be afraid of this. Let's continue our crochet journey.
We carefully insert the hook under the designated bar, then gently catch the working yarn, ensuring not to tie it. Next, we meticulously locate the very next bar in the sequence, precisely insert the hook once more, and then proceed to crochet 2 stitches, followed by another 2 stitches, and finally one last stitch to complete this step. Just like in the sample. There I explained this in more detail and thoroughly. Let's move to the end of the row. Here we'll crochet the last 3 together and move on to the next row. And I'll explain further. I've almost finished the first row. We currently have 3 remaining bars left. We will now carefully crochet the very last pattern element over these bars. 2, 2, 1 and a stitch, the last single crochet over the bar. Just like that. A turning chain. Yes, exactly like this. I had cast on 52 chain stitches, not counting the 2 turning chains. Since we meticulously make the very first and the very last stitches not strictly according to our established standard pattern, we therefore subtract precisely 2 from the total of 52. That is to say, we sort of carefully account for these particular stitches, and consequently, we are then left with exactly 50 stitches remaining. Since each element of the pattern takes up 2 stitches, we divide 50 by 2 and we get the number 25. 25 is the number of your pattern elements, not counting these first stitches. This serves as a reference for you, so you can periodically check yourself. I have 25. If, for example, you cast on 60 stitches, then you subtract 2 from 60. You get 58. Divide 58 by 2 and you get 29 of these pattern elements. So now we move on to the next row. Chain 1, turn your work. In the intermediate row, we crochet a slip stitch starting from the second chain. Second chain, pay attention. Let me show you again. The stitch comes out of this chain right here. It doesn't count for anything. That's our turning chain. After it comes the first chain, which we skip, and then the second one, where we work into the back loop. I hope you're not getting confused and are following along with what I'm showing you. So we skip the first one, insert the hook behind the back loop of the second, pull it through, and immediately make a stitch. We do this for each back loop of every facing chain. Attention! Don't skip a chain and be sure to count your chains at the end of the row. You should have the same number as you cast on the number of stitches without the turning chains. This is important. So we continue with slip stitches to the end of the row. There I will show again how we finish off at the end. We'll count our chains together and move on to the second row. And then I'll explain to you the moment of attaching the pattern when it starts to slant. The row of slip stitches is almost finished. Attention! We have one last chain left and then it looks like, well, between the first and second rows, this chain here also looks like a regular chain. But these are actually the 2 turning chains and we will be attaching to this front loop. So here we attach to the back loop and here to the front one. In the following rows it will look different. I showed this in the sample, but of course I'll remind you again. Don't make the turning chains yet, there will be 2 here. Let's count our chains. Just a reminder, I should have 52. You should have the number according to your own calculations. The first bridge doesn't count. We start counting from the first chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52 stitches. The working loop does not count. We make 2 turning chains, 1, 2. We turn our work. Let me remind you, we make a yarn over and the first stitch is made into the first chain. Here is the first chain. The 2 turning chains do not count as chains. Here is our first chain and the first gap where we insert the hook underneath it. Here is our chain. Yarn over and make a half double crochet, or all 3 loops at once, like this. My yarn has already twisted, so I just straightened it out like this. And now we will crochet directly into the very top chains. This braid stays as it is, and we insert the hook under each chain, like this. Just like that. Let me show you in more detail. Insert the hook under the chain. Yarn over, pull up a loop without finishing the stitch, move on to the next one. Pull up a loop, then work off 2, 2 and 1. The cord twisted, so I'm untwisting it. For now I can untwist it like this. Later I'll use the method I showed you. Find the next chains. Insert the hook. Pull through, insert the hook again. Pull through the material, then work off 2 stitches, then another 2, and finally 1 stitch. Next, insert the hook. Pull through, insert again. Pull through. 2, 2, 1. Now I need to untwist our cord again. So we continue like this until the end of the row. I'll meet you here again. We'll also thoroughly go over our essential slip stitches. I'll clearly show you precisely how to smoothly transition from the second row of these slip stitches to the third row of the delightful puff stitches. It will look a little bit different there, as you can clearly see. So after this particular step, we will carefully knit 5 complete rows on our own. And then at that point, I will show you precisely how to work when this distinct slant visibly appears in the intricate pattern. The second row is almost finished. We're finishing up. Knitting with our truly lush and beautiful exquisite pattern. And the last attachment. A single crochet into the chain. Just like that. First, make a turning chain, then carefully move on to the second row of connecting stitches, ensuring each stitch is properly aligned and secured. So, we skip the first chain. Here it is. You can also call it the first horizontal one, and insert the hook under the second one. Yarn over, pull through, and crochet. We crochet a row of slip stitches. Into the very back loops of each and every one of all the chains. Just like that. Like this, we carefully move to the very end of the row. At the conclusion, I will show you exactly where to make the final attachment so you can remember it exceptionally well. And then we'll crochet a few rows on our own. The second row of slip stitches, the connecting stitches, is almost done. We have one last chain left. Yes. And visually, it looks like we have one more chain, but that's actually our second chain stitch, which bent during the crocheting process. We don't attach it through the back loop, although you could, but for a straight edge, we attach it through this bar right here. Here it is. As a reference, right next to it, there's a bar that goes across like this. We've crocheted. There will be 2 turning chains here, but we won't make them just yet. Let's count our slip stitches. There should be 52 of these chains. You should have the same number you originally cast on the number of stitches you made minus the 2 turning chains. This bridge doesn't count. The first braid is what counts. It's always this small. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. The working loop does not count. We make 2 turning chains, 1, 2. Turn the work. We are now knitting the 3rd row of our current project. The third main row of our pattern. We start with a yarn over. The first stitch goes into the first chain. With a half double crochet, yarn over once, pull through all 3 loops on the hook, and then continue working our pattern. Each pattern element uses 2 chains. 1 next to, and I make 2 stitches into each. 1, 2. And don't forget the 3rd one. The same way. And now I won't continue crocheting on camera, so you keep crocheting. Let me explain this in more detail now. So what we are going to do is crochet a total of 5 distinct puffy rows. This means that as we work through the pattern, we will complete the first puffy row, then proceed to the second puffy row, followed by the third puffy row, then the fourth puffy row, and finally the fifth and last puffy row. And after the fifth, we'll have the 5th row of joining stitches. So we don't crochet the 5th joining stitch. It will be attached a little differently. I'll explain why. I will meticulously explain absolutely everything. So in this particular instance, we are going to carefully crochet 5 of these wonderfully puffy stitches, one after another, with great precision. Puffy joining. There will be a total of 5 rows. And let's continue further. So 5 rows of puffy stitches have been attached. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We haven't crocheted the row of joining stitches for the 5th row yet. We will crochet it in a special way. At this stage, you can already measure the width of your crochet work. So I currently have precisely 37 centimeters, and from that I will subtract a small amount, specifically 2 millimeters. That's exactly what I was aiming for. So if you knit according to the pattern I showed you, all the rows in the previous pillow that I showed you, I had 21 rows of puff stitches. Then the pattern starts to skew the fabric in this direction. That is, it will go diagonally like this. For some people, this slant is less pronounced. For others, it's more noticeable. In the pillow I knitted before, I did what I'm about to do with you every 6 rows, that is on the 7th. But here, the slant appeared earlier, so I decided to try it every 5 rows. You can judge for yourself. If you've knitted 5 rows and you see that everything is still perfectly even, then knit 6. On the 6th or 7th row, you'll definitely notice it appear. Well, most likely. That's it. If it doesn't show up, just keep knitting your fabric without the step I'm about to explain. But still, I recommend sticking to my approach because I've spent a lot of time on this, tried many things, reknitted, and, learned from my own mistakes. So 5 rows have been knitted. All right, let's turn the work. I've already made the turning chain. And now we crochet not into the second chain, but into the first one. So here is the turning chain, and here is our first horizontal chain. We insert the hook behind the back loop, pull it through, and make slip stitches. Everything is the same, just starting from the first chain, not the second. That's actually the whole trick. The last stitch will also be different, but everything else will be exactly the same. So let's continue to the end of the row. We crochet using slip stitches. And at the end, we'll carefully crochet these pieces together, then mark it with a stitch marker to clearly note that this particular row was made in this specific way, and then continue crocheting further along. We have crocheted almost the entire row of slip stitches, and we have just one last chain left. And here's this corner where the second turning chain is slanted. So since we already worked the first one at the beginning, we need to do these two now. If we crochet two, we'll end up with one extra stitch, and we can't have that. So we will carefully skip this particular one, the second to last, and then proceed to make a neat slip stitch into the very last bridge. This specific action won't be visible at all on our finished cushion, so it is absolutely fine to do it precisely this way, and it will certainly help to even out our crochet work. We make 2 turning chains and turn our work. You see, we have this almost imperceptible but ever so slight shift to the left. That's precisely enough so that this subtle indentation will be completely hidden when we meticulously do the edging, but it's also more than enough to comfortably allow us to precisely crochet 5 additional rows along a perfectly straight line, ensuring a consistent and beautiful finish. We yarn over. I forgot to count the number of chains with you. It's worth doing because we should end up with 52 chains. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, and 2 turning chains here. Yes. And now we continue crocheting just as we were before. For now, I'm not attaching the marker. I'll crochet a couple of pattern elements now, and then I'll attach our marker. Yarn over. Half double crochet. Next, we will look at the pattern. 1, 2. So here we're not skipping anything, no tricks, everything is standard. We will now carefully hang a distinct marker on this particular row. This signifies that we have already meticulously knitted this specific row with the special and important feature of the preparatory row, and we will then proceed to knit it once again. This is our 6th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th row. Next, again, 5 rows following this pattern, the 6th one like this. So we knit this 6th row exactly the same way as we did the previous 5 rows, right? That is through all the same bars and so on. We have knitted the beginning together, and at the end I will show it once more, even though everything is identical there. And then we will continue on our own, meticulously knitting the entire fabric of this project. The whole piece will be, for me, it will be 36-37 centimeters long. Yes, you will have your own length. When you reach the end, do not cut the yarn, but let's go step by step. Let's get to the end of this row. We'll finish here, and then I'll explain further. So we've reached the end of the 6th row. As you can see, everything looks the same here in terms of the stitches. So you won't feel any difference here when working the puff rows. The only difference is in working the preparatory row. That is to say, after every 5th puff row, there is a preparatory row which we meticulously knit in the precise way I previously showed you. For some, this might be after the 6th row, for others after the 7th. It depends on how your fabric starts to slant. So I hope this question is clear. Let's work through it together, and then we'll continue on our own. We knit 2, 2, 1, and under the last chain. Let me remind you, it's a bit unique for us. Here it is. We've knitted it, the loop has moved up. Remember, you've marked this row with a marker. So after you successfully complete 5 full rows, you'll be clearly able to see precisely where you will need to repeat that specific stitch pattern from the immediately previous preparatory row. So we will continue knitting the entire length of our fabric, ensuring a consistent and beautiful result. Remember, the fabric should be square, meaning its width should more or less match the width of the piece you're currently knitting. For me, that's 37 centimeters, approximately 36 or 37. Yes. In the first cushion of golden shade, I had crocheted 21 puff rows. Let's take a look here. At the end, when you reach the end, I'll show you the final touches, and don't cut the yarn because we still have the edging to do. So let's get started. Alright, we knit 2 such panels and don't cut the yarn from either of them. And next, I'll explain our process. Girls, the first panel is finished. Alright, now let's measure it. I'll explain at which precise stage we completely finish our knitting project, and then, following that, we will carefully move on to the detailed edging process. Let me just take a moment to accurately count the total number of puff rows. Just a reminder, I'm counting by the puff rows. By the puff row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. In this piece, I also have 21 rows. Across the entire width here, I meticulously measured and found that I got precisely 36.5 inches. Then right here, I have exactly 36 inches. Now I encourage you to watch closely as I demonstrate the next step. I carefully crocheted an entire row of beautiful voluminous puff stitches, ensuring each one was perfectly formed. Immediately above this row of puff stitches, I then proceeded to create a subsequent row of preparatory stitches, which are essential for the next stage of the pattern, right? You can do without it, but it's better to crochet a row of preparatory stitches. So with you, I'll unravel it and do the last stitches together with you. All right, we've turned our work. We crochet with slip stitches, like this. Just like this. Here, in the same way, we make a bridge, crochet a slip stitch into the bridge, make a turning chain, and turn the work. Yes. And we stop here. As you can see, here is the characteristic waviness, and here it's a bit less. That's exactly because of the leveling we did. What will we need to do when edging? We will definitely need to carefully even out our entire edge by gently pulling up individual loops. This particular process is done quite easily and efficiently, and the resulting fabric will undoubtedly look absolutely beautiful and perfectly finished. Here, I will show step by step how to edge each side because each of them has a different pattern. We will start from here. That is, without cutting the yarn, we will start here and move around in a circle like this. Now I will carefully zoom in and meticulously explain everything to you in comprehensive detail, so with that in mind, we will proceed to remove the marker and then diligently start the edging process. Here I would strongly suggest using a slightly smaller, more precise hook for optimal results. For example, I was using a size 5 hook, but now I'll take a 4.5. Okay, why? Because now we will definitely need to carefully go through the various small holes, and utilizing a much smaller hook with a significantly sharper head will simply make the entire process considerably easier to manage and work with. And for the edging, we use single crochet stitches. So we insert the hook under the first chain, yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. Insert under the next one, yarn over, pull through, insert, pull through, insert, pull through, insert, pull through, just like that. Also make sure to control your stitch tension. That is, it should be even. Don't pull too tight. Make sure to draw these loops out nicely. Continue like this until you reach this corner, here together and here as well. I'll show everything step by step. Now we've reached this edge, this corner, and we're working the last chains. There. And here is our the very last chain. See? Under it, we'll crochet 2 or 3 stitches. Let's see now. 2 or 3 single crochets. So insert the hook, pull it through. Make sure to pull the loop out nicely here. Crochet it. We need to make a nice turn. It doesn't matter how many single crochets you make here, 2 or 3. The main thing is that it looks nice. You will carefully insert the crochet hook right here again, yes, and then gently pull out another long continuous chain of yarn like this. So in my case, 2 are enough. That is, I made a nice turn. See, the thread has twisted. Untwist it as well, so the thread lays nicely. Yes. And next we crochet along this edge. Look. You need to estimate. There aren't any clear defined stitches here to crochet into. But I'll tell you what I focus on, and I suggest you do the same. So the first edging. We need to crochet along this row of puff stitches. But if you start crocheting, well, you can actually try to insert it. See, right here, there's a gap between the puff stitch and the last stitch. So you insert the hook, pull it through, and make a stitch. Like that. Next, here is our row. See this kind of weaving. And right here, into this particular gap, which is sort of the distinct space located precisely between the puff stitch and the preparatory stitch, you will carefully insert the crochet hook, gently pull the yarn completely through, and then proceed to meticulously make a new stitch. It sits perfectly. Insert the hook again. See, here we have such a nice little loop. Not like this, so that holes don't form, but like this. So this is the bar here. We insert the hook everywhere, grab the working yarn and make a stitch. And again we find this weaving. Insert the hook right here. A smaller hook goes in better here. Pull it through, make a stitch. This way your edging sits quite nicely. Unwind the yarn again, just like before. There you go, insert into the row of puff stitches, pull through and make a stitch where you have the indentation. So here I have a strong one, here it's less, and here I have just a little bit. Now as we come up here, you pull this loop out a bit more strongly. Let me show you now. Again, we insert here, where the weaving is, right into this hole. It's hard to get the hook in here, but if you have a smaller hook, it'll be fine. Next, we insert it here again. Again. Here. And so I reach this indentation. It might not be visible to you here, but I can see it. It's literally just a couple of millimeters. So what do? We insert the hook and pull this loop out more strongly. Done. It will be longer, but it will even out your edge. We do the same here. Insert the hook, pull it through, make a longer loop, and finish the stitch. And you'll have a straight line. Continue crocheting to this corner on your own, following the method I showed right here together. Alright, the meticulous edging on one side is now almost completely finished. We are steadily reaching the very next corner. Let's do the last stitches together, the edging. Alright. We find this one, yes. And next we have the corner. Now we are carefully going to insert the crochet hook right under this particular chain. This small little knot here will comfortably stay inside the work. So you meticulously insert the hook, gently pull it completely through, then carefully pull the loop through very nicely and smoothly, and finally make the stitch with precision. You can turn it over now. And once again, you will insert the fishing hook right here precisely. Pull the loop through nicely. And that's precisely how your completed turn looks. You can certainly do 3 if you genuinely need to. Next, we will carefully crochet a single crochet stitch under each individual chain. The next chain, we make a single crochet. 1,
2. Next, we will proceed with another chain, 3. So just like we meticulously perform the edging on this particular side, right here indeed on the very first uppermost side of our carefully crafted cushion, we will continue our work with precision and attention to detail, ensuring a consistent and aesthetically pleasing result throughout the entire process. Yes. And so we're moving on to the next corner. Right over here. Here we'll crochet together again, and I'll show you how we'll do the edging here. So let's go, continue on your own. We'll meet at the corner. We've reached the next corner. Here it's a bit uneven. We'll straighten it out now. We are going to carefully crochet these delicate chains together right here in this precise manner. Just like this, observing the process. 1, then 2, and so on, creating a continuous and beautiful piece. And this slanted one is our corner. We insert the hook here, pull through a nice chain, a loop. And in the same way, we insert the hook right here again. And in the same way, we pull through a nice loop. There we've made a corner, a transition. Now we're going to crochet along the edge. Along this edge. I suggest we stick to the same pattern as here. In what sense? For each puff stitch and the preparatory one, in other words, for each stitch we had 2 single crochet stitches for the edging. I suggest we do the same here so that the number of stitches matches up more or less with a margin of error of just a couple of stitches. For the purpose of joining these 2 distinct parts together, this particular step is actually quite important. So let us now proceed in the following manner. Now, the very first hole that we will come across here in this specific sequence is indeed this one. This is our 2 chain stitches. We insert the hook under them, wrapping around like this. Insert it. This is our first edging. Next, we have the very important foundation row, which features a beautiful and intricate puff stitch. For the initial foundation row, I would carefully and precisely insert the crochet hook into the designated stitch, preparing to create the next part of the pattern. Well, here you don't need to. There's a big hole, you can go right here. And you can also go right here, between the 2 distinct turning chains and our lovely fluffy puff stitch. Basically, we'll be sticking to these 2 fundamental and essential stitches, which will precisely correspond to the patterns we are creating. To the 2 columns on this side. Next, we have another crossing, and well, you could bring it over here, but I'm more interested in bringing it here. Here, it just seems more logical. And here is our next hole. If yours doesn't turn out exactly the same, if it looks a bit different, that's totally fine. It won't be visible at all. This is your edging. So you can find 2 points that are more optimal for your own knitting. Yes, the ones you'll be edging. The main thing is to stick to this. For each puff stitch from the preparatory row, there should be 2 edging stitches. And that will be enough to keep everything even. This is how mine is turning out, and I really like it. So we will continue working in this precise manner, proceeding all the way to the very end of this particular side, until we reach our initial corner where we originally began. At this precise point, we will effectively finish off the crochet work. I will then proceed to show you, utilizing one specific end as a clear and practical example, precisely how we meticulously hide the remaining tails, and subsequently how we carefully and securely sew them in place. Next, we do the same with the second piece, meaning we crochet it, edge it, and prepare them for joining. And then we'll move on to sewing them together, but that's just a little preview. So finish this part on your own. We'll meet at the corner. Let's finish the edging.
Insert the hook here again and then insert it here as well. Next, we need to close it off nicely. Let me think about the best way to do it. I think I'll do it like this. So I'll carefully pull this particular loop out a bit more, just like so. Pull your yarn out a bit longer, not too short. You've pulled the yarn out, not too short, because now we're going to make a fake loop with it. Cut it like this. Next, you will carefully insert the crochet hook directly under our very first chain stitch on this current row. Okay, are you ready to proceed? This is how it looks. We grab our yarn end. Yes, and now what we need to do is imitate this particular stitch, meaning that we need to carefully pull this yarn end through here, right through this opening. To do this, we need to insert the hook from this side into the braid where this thread comes out. Grab it and pull it through to the inside. Just like that. And you'll have a smooth little corner like this. Our square is now bordered. Now we'll take measurements again. Mine turned out to be 38 by 38, perfect, a precise square. So, and we still have the joining of the two pieces left. Visually, this will add about 1 centimeter on each side. Now we prepare the second piece in the same way, repeating all the steps exactly. The ends, the very ends that we meticulously have, yes, we carefully hide them away and then securely sew them in place, ensuring a neat and finished appearance. Attention! If you're a beginner and sometimes it happens that you knit, sew it together and then you don't like it, you unravel it, right? When the ends aren't sewn in, it's easier to unravel. When the ends are sewn in, that's when problems can arise. That's why I recommend leaving the step of sewing in the ends until the very end, after you've already tried the pillow on. I'll demonstrate how to sew in the ends now, but I recommend that you just tuck them in nicely, deep into the knitting. I'll show you how to do this now, and you should only sew them in when you're sure you won't be re-knitting. I'll demonstrate this using these two ends as an example. Before sewing them in, I tuck them into the knitting. This is from the wrong side. I grab them. You can do it one at a time or both together. I'll sew in both at once. How deeply you hide them is up to you. I won't tuck them in too far, so here you see I'm threading them right under the knitted stitches. There. And you can also, for example, do it here. See that? This is the wrong side, so it won't be visible. Next, we take a needle with thread. My thread is more or less the same color, but the stitches won't be visible anyway. I don't cut off these tails yet. I pierce through our tails and our knitting so that they're sewn together, just like this. I usually don't make knots either. I make a little loop like this, but I don't always knit or tighten it. Let's see if I can do it now, because sometimes the knitting gets so tangled up that it just doesn't want to cooperate. So I just grab it like this. Right? Yes, I managed to tighten it. And this way, since our cord is porous, it pierces easily, so sewing it up won't be a problem at all. But don't cut it yet. Wait until you've secured these ends by sewing them in. Otherwise, they'll come loose. They'll come out and cause you a lot of trouble. Sew it up nicely. You see, the stitches themselves are not readily visible, so everything will be completely hidden inside the cord, ensuring a very clean finish. And once you've securely fastened and firmly secured it in place, you carefully cut your cord or your tail or tails right down precisely to the very base. And I also strongly suggest making a few additional reinforcing stitches directly at the newly cut point. Another important point is to insert your needle into the same hole it came out of. If it came out here, you insert it back here, just at a different angle this time. And that's it. Well, that's all. I've sewn up my two ends. I don't make knots. It makes no sense. It's all captured well here. And you understand, if you sew it here and then want to undo it, you will actually cut out this place. So if you're sure everything will be okay, sew all the ends together. If you're not sure, then don't sew it. You can just neatly tuck it under the knitted fabric like this, and that's it. And leave it like that for now. So let's work with the second piece, and we'll meet again at the edging. Alright girls, both pieces are ready. They are completely edged. I have carefully sewn in all the loose ends here, but I have intentionally left these particular side ones. We will meticulously weave them in and secure them properly when we eventually join the two main pieces of the project together. These tails will be woven in deeply, and then you can sew them in from the inside. So for now I left them like this. And mine turned out to be 38 by 38 approximately. Yes. Now I'm showing you the very beautiful pillow blank. Here it is, right in front of you, clearly visible for everyone to see. So I have about... Well, actually it's fine. The fabric wraps around the pillow on both sides, so it won't be too small. You know, this cover won't be too small. 38 centimeters is perfect for a 40 centimeter pillow. The blank is ideal. How do we join them together? First and foremost, you really need to carefully decide precisely how you want the zipper to go and be positioned. Maybe you'll want to flip the pattern like this, right? I'm putting the zipper on the bottom. I'm going with the classic option, meaning my pattern will be facing up. So the way we knitted it, that's how it will be. That's why I place one piece with the right side facing away from me, the wrong side towards me, and then I put the other piece on top of it with the right side facing me. Okay, so the wrong sides are facing each other and the right sides are facing away from each other. And now we're going to sew them together. I'll show you how it's done. I want to point out that this part stays inside. You can use the same hook you used for the edging, or you can use the hook you used for crocheting. Now I'll zoom in with the camera to show the edging element in detail. It's very simple and looks great. So I think everyone will be able to master it easily. We take a new piece of yarn like this. Turn both pieces of fabric towards yourself, like this, perpendicular to our pattern. So right here is where I'll sew the zipper. The pillow will be facing me like this. So the zipper is at the bottom and we sew around the perimeter. Yes, find the precise corner. I will now proceed to locate it. Here I have two braids at the corner. I insert the needle under this first one, under the whole braid, and do the same here, under the whole braid. I grab the working yarn, like this. I typically do it in this manner. So it's as if this is our very first stitch and a foundational chain stitch. Next, I carefully insert the crochet hook under the very next chain, and then here specifically under the following chain. I have now inserted it with a precise slip stitch. There we go, and a complete loop has been formed. Again, I insert it 1, 2. We're working in this piece, so this is how it should go. Pulled it completely through, then carefully made a slip stitch and subsequently a chain stitch, completing the process. So our edging will go like this: slip stitch, chain stitch, slip stitch, chain stitch, all around the perimeter, insert into the next one, under the next two. So here it's all slip stitch, chain stitch, insert the hook further. You can actually use a larger hook so that this edging looks more voluminous. By the way, maybe I'll do that too. Inserted it, that is, under 2 loops. Well, just like that. What I want to say is that the number of stitches here and here doesn't necessarily have to match. Most likely, there will be a difference of a few stitches. It's not a problem if, on the side where there are more stitches, you skip one. Somewhere here, one, somewhere there, or even if there are mismatches every 5 stitches, it's okay. The main thing is that it's not 5 in a row, but rather spaced out. You can count them in advance if you want. I don't do this because I know that any mismatch will only be a couple of stitches, if there is one at all. So any mismatch will be visible at this stage, and I will adjust it here. I'll knit a bit more with you, then you'll continue on your own up to the corner, and from the corner as well. The corners are worked the same way. This is just so there aren't any additional questions. So yes, I'll show you, of course. Like this. This is the textured pattern we're getting. This is precisely how we meticulously knit this intricate design. Yes. We continue like this until the end of the row. Up to this corner, right here together. Well, and we'll keep going. We've reached the corner. We are now making the very second to last stitches, carefully and precisely. By the way, my stitch count absolutely matches up perfectly, so as you can clearly see, everything is aligning just as it should be. So there were no skip stitches, and at the corner as well we insert. You see, my yarn isn't secured here, so I'll tighten it and we'll crochet it in now. I insert the hook under the stitch under the chain. Here, I insert it under the chain. Okay, wait. Under the next one, here it is. I grab the working yarn. Yarn over. So at the corner we do exactly the same procedure. There's absolutely nothing special about it. You might just want to pull the stitches a bit tighter. And next, okay, that's done here. Next, I insert the hook under the next one. Here, I want to carefully crochet in this beautiful yarn. I gently lay it on the crochet hook, then find the very next stitch. Yarn over, then stitch the next. Yes, indeed, yes. Yarn over the needle, then carefully stitch through the loop. Yes, indeed. Yarn over stitch. Now I'll show it like this. Chain. Done. Stitch is done. Here's our corner. This is how it looks. So on your own, you knit here, you work through this corner by yourself, just as I showed, and continue up to here. Here, we'll knit together because we'll be edging this side and this one separately, since this is where we'll sew in the zipper. So we'll knit these elements together. Let's get started. We'll meet up at this spot. All right, I've almost reached the place where we'll be sewing in the zipper. I'm edging. So just a bit more to the corner, and I'm going 1, 2, I continue to keep on knitting, and here as well in this particular section. Well, here it's truly and completely up to you to decide precisely when to stop joining these two distinct parts together. So this is exactly how it looks for me at this moment, which means that next I will begin the process of edging just one specific part, and then subsequently I will proceed to edge the other part as well. So now we'll edge this one in a circle, then move on to this one. And here we'll finish off the knitting all the same, just switch the hook. Here you'll need a smaller one. Carefully insert the crochet hook directly under each individual chain stitch. Then perform a slip stitch and subsequently create a chain stitch. Insert the hook into the stitch, then slip stitch into the next stitch and then chain 1 stitch. Insert. Slip stitch, chain, just like that. We move along this side. So we've reached this spot where we transition to the other side.
we make the edging. The very last stitch of the final post, and then right here we have the join. You can actually do it in precisely the same way, which is quite convenient. So I insert a slip stitch here, then a chain stitch, and turn around. Here I have a tail. You can crochet it in or hide it inside later. I'll show you how to hide it inside. It's very simple. You just need to lay it so that it follows the pattern. So if I carefully insert the hook right here and gently pull it inside at this precise spot, it will naturally and smoothly follow these intricate lines. The connecting bars and the cord will continue on from there. Next, we carefully find the very first horizontal chain on this side, then gently insert the hook right there, exactly there. Now take a moment to thoroughly check how it looks for you. The transition turned out nicely. So we meticulously move once again towards the very end. That is precisely to the absolute end of this particular row. At this final stage, we will carefully finish the remaining section completely on our own, ensuring a neat and secure closure, and then we will smoothly transition to the crucial step of expertly sewing in our durable and functional zipper. With the successful completion of these detailed steps, our beautifully crafted and perfectly finished pillow cover will be entirely ready for immediate use and enjoyment. I've reached this edge. Look, I have this stretched loop here. It needs to be joined nicely somehow. This joining can really be done however you like. You can even just use a slip stitch, but I want to insert the hook through this braid and catch this long bar here and then make this slip stitch. I think a turning chain is unnecessary here. I'll just carefully cut the yarn now and finish it off as neatly and precisely as possible. So I can't really give you a truly specific step-by-step method here, as it depends on various factors. The main thing, the absolute paramount consideration, is that it looks aesthetically pleasing and visually appealing. Well, actually, I would meticulously thread it right in there, this particular yarn, carefully guiding it like under this sturdy bar and even further under this intricate loop, and perhaps not just under this single simple loop, but rather under here, let me show you right here, this entire complete loop, encompassing not just one individual bar, but a combination of two distinct bars, ensuring a secure and beautiful finish. I'm checking how it looks. Yes, right here. And here you can just hide it inside like this. Let me turn it around now. Like this. There. So you can hide the yarn inside and sew it in there. That's the kind of join you get. It's quite neat, and there's no, abrupt edge whatsoever. So it seamlessly flows from one distinct part into the other, creating a very smooth and continuous transition. At this stage, the knitting isn't finished yet. We meticulously sew in our remaining loose ends, ensuring a clean and secure finish before we smoothly transition and move on to the crucial step of attaching the zipper. Our carefully constructed base is now fully prepared and ready to be beautifully finished by precisely sewing in a continuous spiral zipper, just like this example, to complete the project with a professional touch. Yes, mine is a bit longer, about 45 centimeters. So what isn't needed will simply lay like this. Now I'll show you the basics of sewing it in. It's all very simple. The main thing is to stick to the key points and everything will turn out nicely, even if you've never sewn in a zipper before. Alright, I'm zooming in very closely on our knitting project. You need to carefully choose the specific side where you want this particular part to be positioned, specifically the one that features the prominent zipper pull. Now we are going to securely fasten it on the designated side. Make sure to secure your thread firmly somewhere around this precise spot, ensuring it is well anchored, right at the intersection on this side. So we're going to sew in this direction now, but secure it from this side. I'll explain why in a moment. Something like that. I just have a knot there, so I secured it like that, that's all. Our zipper will be sewn on like this. like this. Now together we'll secure this entire part, that is from both this side and this side. And then we'll continue sewing along the same line like this. First that side, then we'll come back here. By carefully securing this particular part, it will become much easier for us to sew further along. This robust zipper, once properly positioned, absolutely won't shift anywhere at all. So, by meticulously securing this crucial part, you are making things considerably easier for yourself going forward. You won't have to meticulously realign it, because otherwise it might significantly shift and these individual parts could end up noticeably uneven when you finish carefully sewing them together. So how do we do this? We already have the needle secured. First I set the zipper in deeper. That is, I position it so that when your cushion is lying like this, the zipper isn't visible. At most, only the zipper pull should be visible. Yes, so insert it deeper up to about 1 centimeter down. I carefully secure these specific parts of the zipper fabric. I secure them firmly and precisely by stitching them directly to the base material. At this point, I have already ensured that the thread is completely secured and ready for the next step. Now, I will carefully pierce the needle through the fabric at a designated point somewhere in this area, preparing to continue the stitching process with great attention to detail and accuracy. To keep this particular side looking exceptionally neat and tidy, it is highly recommended that you make your stitches very, very small. You can certainly make them quite frequently, but it is crucial to always keep them consistently small in size. It doesn't really matter where your needle comes out. Here we'll make a substantial number of stitches, carefully and meticulously, to ensure it is thoroughly and securely fastened in place. Then, gently and deliberately, move it further along the material or surface. The absolutely main and most crucial thing is to make sure your knot ultimately ends up precisely and correctly positioned right here at this specific point, so that it gets fixed right here. Check where it is here. In other words, you will personally observe and understand how this process unfolds, witnessing firsthand the meticulous steps involved in securing it. This is precisely how it achieves its robust and reliable security. Let us now proceed to examine it in detail and observe its functionality. This is how it will look. Let's move up a bit. Now let's make another stitch. You've pierced it through, and here you can come out a bit higher. It's hard to translate. Here one stitch is higher. Down. This is the first fixation on this side. Next, we move on to securing it. My little thread has unfortunately come completely out. Now we really need to carefully secure this particular part. It unexpectedly came out from its position here, and we must ensure it is properly re-secured. We need to carefully and precisely move our current position to this specific side of the intricately constructed knitted fabric, ensuring proper alignment and continuation of our work. Turn it in a way that's comfortable for you. We stitch it through. We pierce through, including our nearby one. Well, it's actually quite not easy to do this particular task, because the stubborn zipper keeps wanting to pop out all the time, making it a rather challenging and frustrating endeavor. Once you have successfully and firmly secured it in this precise location, it will undoubtedly become significantly much easier and more manageable for you to effectively handle it. Yes, absolutely. I've zoomed in. Yes, this is more or less how your secured zipper should look. Next, you start sewing along this side. Don't unzip it yet. We'll do that later. Right now, you need to get out. Ah, yes, exactly like this. That's right. So you can easily get onto the perfectly straight line where you'll be precisely sewing your fabric. Here, I've actually gone ahead and done it in this particular manner, just like this. This is how I got out. Next, I will do it a little bit like this so that it will be perfectly, that is to say, now I really need to turn it out very nicely and precisely. Like this. I pierce it through. I pierce it through from this side. Watch carefully. Not too far from the piercing point, so the stitch is small. Here, you just pierce it like this. At the beginning, this is difficult. It will get easier here later. It's just that here, it's hard to turn the hand. So you make a stitch like this, just a couple of millimeters. And here you can go a little farther, not just a couple of millimeters, but a bit more. In a knitted fabric, you can move a bit further. It won't play any critical role. Then you go back. The main thing is more or less to keep it on the same line where you're sewing. So you make another stitch. You look here. Here, you make a small stitch about 3 millimeters, yes. So not too wide so that it looks neat. And here you can leave a 5 millimeter gap. Just like that. Watch carefully how you will have a scheme like this. This is how you will sew it on. I'll go through the beginning with you so that everything is clear. You'll see at least 7 or 10 centimeters of how I sew it on. After that, you'll continue on your own up to the fold. Next, once again, I carefully observe and then proceed to make a precise stitch right here, ensuring it is exactly 3 millimeters in length. For the moment, I gently pull the thread out in this particular manner, and subsequently, I meticulously pierce through our intricately knitted fabric to thoroughly examine and see precisely how it appears and what its overall look is like. I tighten it, just like that, yes. Yes. I imagine to myself how it will look. Basically, the more frequent your stitches are, the smaller and more precise they are both on the fabric and on your zipper, the better and more professional it will be for you, and the much nicer it will ultimately look. So here you really need to be prepared to spend a significant amount of time on this particular task. Just like that. And this is precisely the method and technique we will be employing to meticulously sew it onto the fabric, ensuring a secure and aesthetically pleasing attachment. Like this. So I've already sewn about 10 centimeters. It's already easier to navigate here. So I pierce it like this. And from here I can already pierce both the zipper and the fabric at the same time. And right away I pierce my knitted part. So here, just to show you, it was hard for you to pierce both at once. From here on it's easy. And the smaller the stitches, the neater it looks. So the color of the thread also matters. That is to say, it should be very, very similar, indeed almost identical, or perhaps even a little bit lighter.
in shade than your chosen zipper, depending entirely upon the specific color. And so with careful precision, we then move in a perfectly straight line directly towards. Yes, here too I want to keep a straight line while sewing, to be honest. Yes. We move up to this point. Here I'll also show you how I do it. And then we will move on to the second, to this particular part right here. We've reached this edge. Yes, just a couple of centimeters left. We sew it. I'll do this on camera now. So now we meticulously need to secure our zipper precisely like this, and then carefully make a nice smooth transition to the other side, ensuring a clean finish. Until you reach the very edge of the fabric, continue sewing everything in precisely the same manner, diligently following the established pattern you have been using. Well, actually the transition at that point will just be a little bit inconvenient to manage, so it will just be accompanied by some inconveniences. The pattern doesn't change, but there will be inconveniences because you need to align this edge nicely so that it really looks good. That's how it is. Hands. We absolutely need to turn on the skilled hands segment, which is a crucial part of our presentation. Just like this, it's perfectly aligned. So now I still want to meticulously add a lining. Yes, a very precise and detailed lining to ensure everything is complete and aesthetically pleasing. Look, we need to carefully lower it down there, precisely to that specific point, yes. So we will meticulously sew it on, applying the exact same fundamental principle and technique as we successfully demonstrated and utilized right here. We then proceed to move the fabric slightly and gradually downward, meticulously hemming our zipper with great precision so that it transitions incredibly smoothly and seamlessly down to its final position there. This way, once everything is perfectly aligned and secured, we can then gently and deliberately turn it around there, completing the process. Yes, there we go. A clear and definite contact has been made. Next, we will proceed to move on to this particular side. So, we can effectively make the connected parts transition smoothly and seamlessly. Yes, precisely like that, ensuring a perfect alignment. Of course, we must meticulously secure it firmly in place, making certain it is completely stable and won't shift during the process. And then we carefully and deliberately go down, moving with precision so that we can sew here at the very bottom, creating a strong and durable seam that will hold everything together securely and reliably for a long time. Also, you should secure it a little bit lower, as it were, in a more stable and appropriate position. Like this, we carefully make small, precise stitches, ensuring each one is neat and consistent. Then we gently sew it on, attaching it firmly and securely. Right now it might look a little bit messy, but please do not pay too much attention to that particular aspect. It will even out as soon as you secure it well. We will now meticulously secure this transition here, ensuring it is perfectly aligned and firmly in place. Yes, precisely like this, for example, just like that, making sure every detail is accounted for. And next, we will carefully and precisely be sewing along this entire part, following the designated line with great attention to detail to complete this section of the project. In this direction, like this. So first, just one more stitch. I'll carefully do it with the zipper completely closed, and then once that's done, we'll slowly open it up. Maybe I should pierce it right here at once, on both sides. I carefully place this particular spot and then look for precisely where it will lay nicely and smoothly on the knitted fabric. And I make a stitch there. At this transition, you can practice like this. The sewing will turn out nicer. And I keep doing the same thing. And I continue with the meticulous process of sewing. Now it's time to make sure it's perfectly straight, carefully laying our zipper precisely along the marked line. This ensures a neat and professional finish for our project. You see, it pulls a little here. You can make a brief stop here if you wish. No, that's also uncomfortable. So you just have to get used to it. Turn it towards yourself in a way that's comfortable for you. Well, this will be the last uncomfortable one. A couple of awkward, uncomfortable stitches, but they're the last ones. So here you just need to get through this spot. It's as uncomfortable as it gets, but as soon as you make a few stitches and secure it, everything will go smoothly. It might seem like it's lying all over the place and nothing is working out, but in reality, it's just not fixed yet. It's bending and being pulled in different directions. You've tamed it, see, and now it's settled in place, right? And then you just keep moving straight ahead. Actually, this is the last part that might cause you significant discomfort, is this transition. And that's it. After that, it gets easier. So we will keep moving along like this, steadily and carefully, all the way to the very end of this process. We'll meet here together, securely fasten it, then take a thorough look at how it all visually appears and fits. Following that, we will precisely measure our cushion, then gently put it into this custom-made cover, meticulously determine the exact fit, and finally observe the complete and finished result. We've almost reached the end. Here we just finished sewing. There's nothing particularly special left to do. Everything is already secured here. We just carefully finish our work. Nice. Secure it. Now we'll secure the thread. Here you can easily stitch it just like this. Just like that, you see. Oh, and that's absolutely it then. I don't tie knots in the thread. Usually I sew it through the knitted fabric a couple of times like this. It gets hidden in the weave of the cord itself and the thread won't come out. So we carefully trim as close to the very base of the fabric as humanly possible, and that's it. Our zipper is now perfectly sewn in, and here it is, the finished result. It's half closed here, right? Let me show you. Here's the whole thing. You see, everything fits nicely and perfectly. So let's try it on and see exactly how it looks and how it feels. Now our pillow cover blank is completely ready and prepared for use. We carefully place it into our soft, intricately knitted cover, and once it is securely nestled within, we can then meticulously adjust and precisely straighten its position inside, ensuring everything is perfectly aligned. So, as you can clearly see, the smaller your chosen pillow or knitted base is, the puffier and more voluminous it will be. In other words, this significantly affects the overall shape. And then we carefully close it with our, final touches. Zipper. It looks like this a little bit, it falls in a wave. And here is our comfortable pillow. It takes on this appearance. Our pillow is ready. Dear girls, our pillow is ready. I'm showing you two in two different shades. This one is milk with gold, and this one is beige with gold. They look quite organic together, harmonious, and can serve as a set. Thank you to everyone who was with me who knitted along with my masterclass. I really appreciate it, and I am very grateful for your trust in my approach and my video tutorials. I hope it was easy and interesting for you to knit this item. I wish you creative success, inspiration, and many new, wonderful knitted creations. This was Oksana Rudko and my brand of knitted bags, La Accessory. And not just knitted bags, see you in new masterclasses and with new knitted items. Thank you all for your attention.